Hi, I'm Emma, Communications Manager at RSPCA Queensland. Here's a look behind the scenes at the RSPCA about what your support has helped make possible. You've helped change the lives of dogs Kirby, Molly, Hope and Phoebe.
So since 2017, there's been involvement with the defendants. Initially, the inspector attended the property in response to a complaint about German Shepherd dogs being housed inappropriately. These dogs were confined in small cages where they were unable to display normal patterns of behaviour. So in 2019, inspectors attended again and they still had the same issues. The inspectors worked very closely with the defendants to try and rectify these issues. They provided education and advice and issued an animal welfare direction. So there were significant difficulties dealing with these defendants. What we found was that there was an abject lack of insight and awareness as to the harm that they were causing to these dogs. Inspectors were placed in a situation where they were required to seize dogs for their welfare. On a number of occasions, the defendants obstructed the inspectors and on one occasion attempted to physically restrain an inspector.
When the shepherds first came into care, they were really very anxious. We saw a lot of pacing, spinning in circles, a lot of very heavy panting, all the behaviours that really were indicative of high arousal levels and anxiety and frustration. And we know that on the property they were housed in small kennels as well, and that these behaviours were happening on the property. So it took them quite some time once they were in our care for those arousal levels to come down. So we spent time working with the dogs. We provided them with enrichment so that we could get their brains working and get them thinking. We took them on lots of really long walks away from the shelter through the forest so that we could get their arousal to come down. And we did quite a bit of work with them around other dogs as well. We found that a lot of the dogs, when they first came into care, they were quite good with other shepherds, but they had probably not seen different breeds before. So we spent quite a bit of time introducing them to different types of dogs and helping them to know that other dogs are safe and not scary. The biggest change that we saw from those dogs was once they were able to go into foster care. So the behaviour teams spent quite a bit of time coaching the foster carers and working with them to help these dogs to settle into a home environment, which was really quite foreign to them.
Kirby was 7 months old when we got her on the 13th of July. I remember it because it was my mother's birthday, 2019. And yeah, I'd never really thought about fostering dogs because, and there she is, hello Kirby, because I just thought I'd get attached to them and wouldn't be able to return them, etc, etc. But yeah, a friend of mine said, you know, that these dogs were in desperate need of a really good home and somebody that understood German Shepherds, and I've owned quite a few German Shepherds in my time, so I said yes. We went up to meet her and we had a walk with one of the RSPCA staff, and Kirby was very energetic and was sort of looking at our dog Nix and you know, wasn't quite sure about Nix. But anyway, we liked Kirby and we thought, yeah, we'll take her home, so we did. You know, I knew that she had been kept in pretty awful situation they all had, which, you know, I just find incredible. How does anyone, you know, neglect a dog or treat a dog so badly? But yeah, here we just, you know, we had a very normal life. We take her for a walk every day, sometimes with Nick, sometimes just on her own. And she loved that. She loves going for a walk. She's a very energetic dog, so it's good to get that energy. And she's got a large area to run around in.
And what did you have to do to settle her in at home? Because obviously you've got 2 shepherds as well already.
That's right. So initially we kept her segregated from both of them, just to make sure, you know, that she was okay and comfortable. And yeah, gradually over time they sort of started to get used to each other.
The prosecution proceedings was a time-consuming and resource-draining process. Some of the difficulties dealing with these type of defendants is that they obtain legal advice from people who've previously been prosecuted by RSPCA. Whilst they are fighting the fight against RSPCA, they don't take into account the effect that it's having on the animals.
A lot of the dogs experienced anxiety when they first went into the home. We worked with the foster carers through reactivity issues, generalised anxiety, some fear responses and separation anxiety as well. We also utilised behaviour medication initially in the early stages so that we could try and bring those very, very heightened levels down. And then they started responding to training and they really, really loved to work and learn. So from there they just went from strength to strength. They really adapted very well to a home environment. But it took them a long time and it was a massive amount of work for those foster carers.
We got a trainer in just for one session just to help, with her behaviour, because she was still running around, jumping around all over the place. She was still tended to be a bit anxious even when she came off the medication. We just wanted to give her the best possible care and love that we could, and just hope that maybe, the RSPCA would win the court case, or the owners would decide that they didn't want the dogs anymore and we would end up keeping her. The solicitor rang to say that we had won, so my daughter and I burst into tears, and then RSPCA rang me about 2 seconds later and said, "You've won, do you want to adopt her?" And I said yes. Absolutely. So, and she's just relaxed. She comes in now, doesn't jump around the furniture. She might sit on the couch next to me. She loves, having a cuddle. And she wouldn't do that before. She wouldn't stay still long enough for a cuddle. We just fell in love with her and we just couldn't give her back. So I'm so glad, because I don't know what we would have done if we hadn't been able to adopt her.
So whilst it was a resource draining and time consuming process, it was the dedication, the passion and the determination of everyone who was involved in the care of the dogs. It gave us the inspiration to keep fighting and persevering what felt like an uphill battle.
I think it's really important that if you are getting a dog from a breeder, that you take the time to visit the facility that the dog is housed in and have a look around and ask the breeder about how the dogs are socialised and what their early experiences are. It really is the responsibility of the breeder while the dogs are young, and if they've got puppies, to be socialising them and getting them used to all these experiences that they're going to have to encounter in later life, because these dogs, they weren't used to being in a home environment and they really didn't have the ability to process everyday changes in their environment, and those were all things that it took a really long time to rehabilitate them through and to work on. So I think those things are really key.
She was just meant to be part of our family, I think.
Cool.